to school. Obviously, first class was Spanish. You're all feeling a little cognitive dissonance, except for those who have some familiarity. Swimming lessons, back to school time. And we're all swimming in circles. How many of you feel like you're swimming in circles sometimes? Oh, yeah. Oh, lots of hands, lots of hands. You got a whole ocean, you know, a whole ocean out there. So what does it mean to be a fisher of men? How many of you heard that term, fisher of men? Yeah, fisher of men. Yeah, sometimes it's like, I don't want to fisher of men. Why not fisher a woman? What about the children? What about the animals? Right? What does this mean? All right, so then, because this is higher education, we're also going to talk about what is cognitive dissonance, confirmation bias, how do they interface with language arts, and practical, how do we cast a wider net? So I'm going to start with some quick, hard definitions, a glossary. I should have one to hand out, but you know, the Mimeo was broken. Oh wait, y'all have iPhones? I didn't put it up on the net. You're going to have to listen. First definition is metaphor.
Metaphor.
All of life.
All of life.
Sometimes mixed metaphor. Really all of life. But Merriam-Webster's puts it as this: a word or phrase for one thing that is used to refer to another thing in order to show or suggest that they are similar. Or an object, activity, or idea that is used as a symbol for something else. This sermon is filled with
Metaphors.
Cognitive dissonance. The uncomfortable and sometimes unbearable tension from holding two conflicting thoughts, feelings, and experiences at the same time. I can sing, I don't know Spanish. How many of you felt that? Words went up and you went. Textbook. Cognitive dissonance increases with 1, the importance of the subject to us. We're in a family of friends, it's pretty much okay. We're learning, we accept this. How strongly the dissonant thoughts conflict. 3, our inability to rationalize and explain away the conflict. That's how cognitive dissonance increases. Cognitive dissonance is a very powerful motivator which will often lead us to change. That's the good thing. I want to learn Spanish. I want to learn how to play the guitar. I want to sing in a group. Powerful motivator that leads us to change. It leads us to change the conflicting belief or action. I don't know Spanish. I don't think I can sing. I don't know how to play the guitar. We look to release the tension in one of 3 ways. And really one of 3 ways. We can change our behavior. We can learn to play the guitar. We can study Spanish. 2, we justify our behavior by changing the conflicting cognition, the thoughts. I don't want to learn Spanish. I'm not going to buy a guitar. I don't like singing in public. We can justify our behavior by adding new cognitions. This is America, we speak English. We can add new thoughts to it. Confirmation bias is the act, whether conscious or unconscious, of seeing or seeking elements that confirm paradigm, decisions, and hypotheses that we experience. It is also the event that enables us to negate the information that places us into cognitive dissonance. We simply don't see it. I'm sorry, there was Spanish up there? I didn't see that. Oh, that was that first part? That was Spanish? Confirmation bias is also known as confirmatory bias, my side bias, and verification bias, in case you want to go look it up. This sermon comes with lots of homework. So sorry. Both run into self-perception theologies and self-perception theories. Kind of the same. Theory is an idea, a theology is how we place it into the bigger world of God. They enter in when dissonance is so great that we create additional storylines to exclude and explain dissonant facts. This is beyond confirmation biases, where we're looking for facts and we only see what supports what we believe. These are stories that are no longer supported by evidence or that have no means of supporting them, and thus they actually become stronger to protect the ego. It's a fascinating thing. It's a horrifying thing. This is a core part of all of your radicalization scenarios, your conspiracy theologies, and now we're seeing it played out every day in our social media, our news reports, our pulpits, and our day-to-day interactions. It's time we went back to school. We have to study these things. Back to school. You know, just this time of year, I long for new notebooks, pencils, crayons. Crayons, oh man. I mean, my first boxes of crayons, I didn't get to choose. I was, of course, too little. They were bought for me. They were Crayola. I always wanted the big box of 48. I got the little box. But they came with another story that wasn't chosen. They came with a crayon that was labeled Flesh. It was renamed in 1962 as Peach. But not before the company tried to describe it as, no, it's the color of the palms. No, it's the color of the plate, not the back of the hand. Really, they really did that. That is cognitive dissonance in action. And in 1999, Indian Red was renamed Chestnut. Although it was never named after the Native Americans. It was actually named after the red plant which grows in India, which gives it its pigment. So even as we grow in awareness, you know, we're almost always coming up way too short and missing the mark, or we're overshooting it completely. And either way, we're missing that goal of beloved community. What's on the screen now is a current example of a current box of Crayola crayons. It is actually on the list for some of your school supplies, although I don't know here in Putnam County if it is or not. None of the colors in this box are labeled Flesh. They are, by the way, labeled, I'm going to quote this, Crayola multicultural crayons are expressive crayon colors specifically designed for hands-on learning about self, family, and community. Apricot, burnt sienna, mahogany, peach, sepia, tan, and black and white for blending. Crayola crayons are famous for rich, vibrant color. The idea is clear. These are shades of human flesh. This is also an example of confirmation bias, with a huge dash of cognitive dissonance. Can you spot it? The company has stated, quote, it was introduced multicultural crayons from feedback received by consumers and educators. They don't provide the consumers or educators. On the website LatinoRebels.com, they write, quote, multicultural, adjective, of relating to or consisting of several cultural or ethnic groups within a society. They go on. We're going to assume that the marketing team at Crayola doesn't own a dictionary. Saying Crayola's box full of different colored skin tone crayons made your product multicultural would mean that you're defining culture as nothing more than skin tone, nothing more than color. That is how those sneaky theories of behavior become actualized in a world that really loves one color more than any other, a kind of dismal shade of green. In social studies class, we see our country awash in cognitive blindness, confirmation bias, self-perception ideologies, And I went in and I wanted to pull active stories from this week for this sermon as I was working on. I was suddenly flooded by Olympic scandal. I was suddenly on all sides. I was flooded with politics and floodplains and FEMA. And I was quickly, like that, overwhelmed by too many examples in a way I haven't been before for a sermon I have preached. They are playing out as sexism, as racism, and whatever the word is for anti-ecology and anti-environmentalism. Or is that really racism and sexism? Think about that into your storyline for your homework. But if I'm really just going to be elementary, they show up in the world as bullying and privilege. And the world is a schoolyard. And as one bully once told me, this will be like shooting fish in a bucket. And I was the fish. It's back to school days, spelled with a Z. And we, the fish, in order to form a more perfect school, swim in circles of tighter and tighter fish that look just like us. And we swim away from other fish that don't look like us. And yes, I am mixing my metaphors. Because remember, metaphor is all life. Just want to click. Our science class tells us that the sea is rising. Our news tells us that worlds are flooding. The ocean is warming. And it is very, very, very scary. And it's easy to remain dumb or willfully ignorant. And recently I was in a group where someone was mouthing off about how they didn't believe in global warming. And someone else said, well, you can't fix stupid. And just like you did, people laughed. In fact, we all too often pride ourselves on being the ones who are enlightened. Especially here, in the walls of our particular institution, which is like all religious institutions. We forget that all religions do the same thing. All of us, none of us are special. We all offer salvation. We only differ in how we define it, and we all think that we're the ones that know the answers. And here, we're really loath to study those old stories, but don't blame the stories. Come on, how many of you read some of the great literature in high school and have never looked at it again? Because, it was just too painful. Well, voila! Welcome to the language arts portion of the curriculum. Today we're going to go into a story that some consider the core of evangelism. What is evangelism? It simply means to share the good news. In sacred stories, we are called to, this will be on your test all the time, maybe this afternoon, okay? Struggles, hardships, you're going to need a community, and you're going to need deep inner strength, and you'll be surrounded by a permeating energy of benevolence. Might be a superhero, might be a close friend, might be a god or gods, might be just sunshine. But the universal message is pretty clear. You are here to help others, and you're here to help yourself. And we're all here to grow. So in this classic story that we're called to be fishers of men, what does that mean? You're familiar with the phrase, some of you know it, but I want you to listen to it again with fresh ears, because that is the job of the sacred storyteller, the teller. And their apprentices, such as myself. This story is in Mark, chapter 1, Matthew, chapter 4, and it continues after the resurrection in John 21. Deep breath for some of you. Deep breath. I know. A little cognitive dissonance going on. It's all right. That's the feeling before change. It's not a bad thing if you don't back it up with confirmation bias. As Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net onto the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people." And at once they left their nets and they followed him. When he had gone a little farther, he saw James, son of Zebedee, and brother John in a boat preparing their nets. And without delay he called to them. And they left their father Zebedee in a boat with the hired men, and they followed him. They went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, Jesus went to the synagogue and began to teach. And the people were amazed. He taught as one who had authority or wisdom or had experience, not as one of the teachers of the law or those who were scribes or those who simply repeated the rituals. Just then, a man in the synagogue was possessed by an impure spirit and cried out, "What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are. You are the Holy One of God." "Be quiet," said Jesus sternly. "Come out of him." The impure spirit shook the man violently and came out with a shriek. "Oh!" And the people were so amazed, they asked each other, "What is this? What is this new teaching? And with authority, with wisdom. He gives orders to the impure spirits, and they obey him." News of him spread quickly over the whole region of Galilee. What do these stories mean to you? Some of you have folded your arms. Some of you have closed up. Some of you are feeling something that is not good. It might be fear, a little bit of being threatened, a little bit of this is BS. Right? This is impossible. And we throw up our hands and we leave and go back to university. What do these stories mean to you? Well, I'm going to go back and unpack it just a little bit. What do you think of the fishermen? What do you think fishermen were back then? And what do you think of them now? Oh wait, what, the fishermen? Yes, the fishermen. Focus on their job. They were fishermen. Now when you think of fishing, do you think of an angler with some leisure time on a beautiful calm lake? Or maybe you think of people on the bridge with a piece of string and an open paper clip trying to get a meal? Maybe you think of people who say "fish life" on the back of their big trucks as they go whizzing past you. Maybe you think of my family up in Maine. Maybe you think of roughnecks who smell of chum and calloused hands. Casting nets are round, and although one person can throw them, many are often needed to gather them back in. Back then, they dove naked into the waters, swimming bathing suits. They had not been invented yet. So they would gather the weighted ends around each other, they would pull them to the boat, and then they would row the boat back in. Closer to shore, small casting nets sunk to the ground. They trapped the fish underneath, and they were dragged back in. If the water was too deep, they would dive, and they would gather what they needed from the catch, putting it into smaller nets attached to the waist with their hands, only taking what they needed, and then the rest of the fish went. So, the organic core of this story is how hard fishing is. It's a metaphor. What do you have to be prepared for in the world? You need stamina, training, focus. It requires observation, care, and faith. This is the lesson, to develop the skills before you go out there. It isn't one-on-one with a hook, and I hook you into salvation. It is we, as a community, practice the hard work and struggle together, and then we can go out and help feed the world. There is also a touch to something in the Tatien Upanishads, and I'm pronouncing that not quite correctly. Taititia. And my teacher would drill me on it, and my tongue just didn't learn it early enough. The last chapter is translated as, I am food, I am food. I am the food eater, I am the food eater. We are fish, and we are the fish eaters. And even if you don't eat fish anymore, we are food, and we are the food eaters. East Warren translates this passage as, I am the food of life. I am. I eat the food of life. I eat. I eat. Sounds similar to some other stories. We are all one. So what's the good news we are here to evangelize? Perhaps it's this, that we're all in this together with open eyes and no class divisions. The fishermen went into the synagogue to the learned men. And while we must follow our own individual education plans as we struggle, we're all in the same school. And what are our confirmation biases but impure spirits? With gentle authority, we can exercise them and look for the truth of ourselves in the mirror of the other. We need to leave the dogma of our past and cast our nets to the surrounding ocean of potential. We can shift the conversation. We can challenge the stories we hear, and we can test the waters. We can fling our nets wide. We can feed the world. Really, we can. The question is, will we? We have a lot of homework to do. Oh, and of course it wouldn't be public education without a Pledge of Allegiance. So today, I'm going to offer you several. And if you find any of the words offend, don't say them, but note it. Find where they are, go back, and unpack the feelings. Can you hold more than one pledge? Can you pledge allegiance to more than one item, object, noun at a time? Find out those feelings. Look to your bowed mystics. Look to your sages. Look to those that write pop music. The progression may look like a hierarchy, but it's not. Every part of the mandala is a center. It's a center connected to another part. The heart center is bigger than the space outside. In other words, those who enter the smallest inner ring find that in that center there is oneness where we're all linked. New members are concerned about what they can get out of the tradition. Mystics, sages, and yes, our heroes and stars in the center are concerned for all the beings in the universe. That is from a new book that's about to be published on how do you create beloved community. And I will send you the links for this book because you need to read it, Charles Vogel. This is from Gaia Field and Wise USA. And I'd like to say it all together. Please rise. And you may stand at attention or put your hand over your heart. Or if you find the words too offensive, we have no problem with you sitting right back down. We the people, the ancestors of our great-great-great-grandchildren, call forth the deepest wisdom, the greatest joy, and the highest compassion from the heart and soul of America for the benefit of all life on the next 7 generations. May wisdom prevail in the United States of America. May peace prevail on earth for the next and the different. I have a different one, slightly the same. We're going to continue. This is from Earth Day. There are many variations of this one. I pledge allegiance to the earth and all the life which it supports, one planet, in our care, irreplaceable, with sustenance and respect for all. Please be seated. So this is school. What do you pledge allegiance to each morning?
The flag.
How you do?
I don't. But that's what everybody else does.
I'm not certain everybody, we only have one hand. So who do you pledge allegiance to each morning?
It was to the United States of America.
You do?
When we were in school.
Right, but now, who do you pledge allegiance to each morning?
To myself.
See, this is confirmation bias. You are answering a question that is being asked in this moment with information from your past.
Right?
Yeah. School's hard. But your pledge of allegiance informs the story that you're writing. It's the basis for your personal curricula. Study with care. Love your alma mater. Stop the bullying. Keep casting the net wider.